my scaredy cats, my name is Kate from Scaredy Cat Gaming, and we are in a game called A Case of Distrust. Now, as you guys know, I played the demo for this, and I found the full game, so let's get started. Now, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to skip the whole intro, because I'm pretty sure it's all just the same unless there's something different. If there's not, then I'll skip it. If there is something different, then you guys will see. Alright. Well, I'll read this to see if it's the same or not, and if it is, then I'll just skip everything else. I woke in my desk chair. Across from me were his piercing amber eyes. They surprised me at first, but I should have known he'd be there. I stretched and said mid-yawn, "Not very nice to sneak into a sleeping woman's apartment," but his stare just continued. I laughed at his glare. I cursed at the open window. Which one would I more likely do? Probably curse the open window. I cursed the open window. Of course, that's how he entered. I'd hoped to finally rest my eyes a while, but fate often disagrees with me. I knew I didn't have what he wanted. Reaching into my coat, I took out my knife and flicked it open. I held the knife steady, of course. I held the knife steady while staring back at him. "Look," I said, nodding towards the desk. "That's all there is. Take it or leave it." But a detective knows when she's beat, and I knew then he wanted to search the place, and that's what he would do. I sighed, knowing my weakness for his type. "All right," I said, "let's look." He let out a gleeful meow. In victory, I cut a piece of my apple that the cat had rejected. "Always the sore winner," I jabbed. But I was smiling too, because I was telling the truth. There's absolutely no other food in my apartment. Alright, so it seems the same. So I'll be back when I come across something new, or when I get back to where I was in the demo. Bye! Okay, so you probably already saw all that. I don't know if I'm going to keep it in or not. But I decided to click on the sister part instead of my parents. So my sister Meryl had sent a letter with an update of her life in Chicago. She and her husband had just purchased a new home outside the bluster of the city. Their 3 young children were looking forward to the move. I'd never told Meryl, but those letters kept me going. Hearing about my family, however remote, helping me cope with the isolation I was feeling. I refused to accept it myself back then, but perhaps Meryl had known anyway. My sister had the ordinary lifestyle that I had rejected. I had wanted to change the world. I wanted to change the world, to bring justice for victims, especially the ones who no longer had a voice. Not that I was helping advise that, because with the types of cases coming my way. My mind swirled into the unusual series of questions. Had I been impacted the women's movement? Had I made any change on society at all? Was my plodding career worth losing traditional happiness? What was the point in the life I had chosen? A loud meow from the cat snapped my thoughts back into the moment. I took a deep breath and grinned back at him. "Guess you can scram now," I said. "Nobody's going to come knocking with food for you, fella." Alright, so this is where Mr. Green comes in. I don't want to do anything with him. His company turns my stomach. Because now that I know what he does, I'm glad that I did say that. So I started closing the door when he got angry. So this is just going to be a fast thing. I already have read all this. I'm not going to read it again. Okay, so here's something different. The youth driving the taxicab was driving in shirt sleeves, his hat and jacket on the front bench beside him. Our conversation led into the local dances. We talked about dances. I returned idle banter. I didn't come here to talk about dancing. We arrived at my destination promptly. Okay, that was a little bit different. The coffee place with Frankie. Let's see if there's anything different here. I don't think there would be. Frankie had a bond with the old shaker at the end of the bar. I was surprised he hadn't named it. He could sling a mean drink, though he only used the good liquor if he liked you. Frankie liked me. Frankie kept a collection of blah, 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 blah. I've already read all this. If you guys haven't already, go check out the demo, because I'm not going to read all this, like I said in the beginning. Go check out the demo. The part 1 and ending or part 2 / ending will be in the description. And I'll probably link them at the end of the video. So if you haven't, go look at those. Once I asked Frankie to lend me some cash. I'm not gonna drink this. So I chose to do something different. I shook my head. Too much. He scoffed and grabbed the bottle from me. I suppose you only like the bootleg paint. Oh, this is all the same. You don't even drink. You don't even drink, I chided. Frankie let out a belly laugh. I can still enjoy the smell, he said. There was a story behind his teetling, but he'd cut short any talk about it. An odd relationship with the drink for a barman. Frankie sighed. Too bad more folks can't know about it. That woman's league is the devil. The woman's Christian temperance union was now under feminist Frances Willard, a positive force for suffrage of women, but her staunch support of rehabilitation, along with the union's massive political clout, irked the very wet San Franciscan public, and she particularly wasn't popular with bartenders. Take a seat, he said. I'll make you something else. Let's go with something else. He'd been a decent pitcher. He'd been a decent pitcher for the Seals a few decades earlier. Sometimes he'd speak wistfully of those days, but his arms were much more used to slinging bottles now. I sat at the bar. You got the spooks, PC? He said. You're worn as a catcher's mitt. I suppose my exhaustion showed. I won $100 for nothing, and I can't let it go. This I am gonna reread, because I like this part. I told Frankie about the case, the threatening letter sent by Connor Green, how he assumed it was related to his bootlegging, and his suspicion of Redstone Stable. The story took longer than I wanted. Frankie showed genuine interest by asking many questions. When I finished, he threw me the whiskey sour he'd been stirring. I took a large gulp and gave a sigh as thanks. Well, Green's case is better than most of what you're given, he said with some enthusiasm. At least it's not more of that adultery bunk. Sure, I replied, but I started with the goal in mind. What's the point in helping a man like Green? Frankie clicked his tongue on his teeth. Lawyer or priest? Why does it matter? Let me ask you, are the clients you have now the type you want to help? I admitted they weren't. I told him that I wanted more from my detecting life. It could be that Green's case shoots your career forward, Malone. I sighed and stared down at my drink. But my daze was interrupted by the basement door opening and slamming shut. A small, blustering woman began marching towards me. Last time I said she was wearing it, I'm gonna pick she looked younger then. She looked younger than 25 and was a few inches shorter than my 5'6". She looked younger than 25 and was a few inches shorter than my 5'6". I thought her gray trench coat was too large for her small frame, which was the one I realized. It was exactly like the one that had belonged to Lewis. She hurled insults at me a while. All I could do was sit and take it until she ran out of gas and started breathing heavy. I set my drink on the bar and looked her in the eyes. I studied her features more thoroughly. It was plain she was a knockout. Now that she'd finished shrieking beyond the loudest blush and lipstick, she had then natural soft skin and bright eyes, perpetually desired by the opposite sex. While I was eyeing her, she caught her breath and restarted her tirade. I'm the wife of that bum who snakes into your bed, I asked. The cat? I asked. The cat? But humor wasn't her angle, and she launched into another poetic stanza. And you just left your sty this morning, she finally ended, and that was when I gathered she was Connor Green's wife. Miss Green, I'm a PI, not your homewrecker, and I don't think your husband in his line of business would want to bet a dick anyhow. Her look was pure, incredibly questioned. I don't believe it. Alright, so last time it said that it was going to take more than that evidence. Show it to her. I told her about why Connor had come to see me, the bootlegging and the threats. You see, Miss Green, this is what I do. There's not much more I can show you to prove it. It still took more coaxing for her to believe me, but eventually she came around. She seemed grateful and I explained it to her. Apparently she had seen her husband leave my apartment, and distraught, she had followed me all the way to Frankie's basement and decided to confront me. I suppose I lost my head after that. What I thought I'd seen, she said, and she began to cry. Frankie, ever chivalrous to a dimpled girl, came around the bar and held her up. Now, that's all right, Miss Green. Why don't I haul you a cab and send you on back home? She agreed, and they walked together up the stairs. When Frankie returned, I said to him, "You turned that real quick." He snorted a laugh. "Aw, hell. We can't have that siren in here with the torturer yelling like that. Every street bugger would have come to hear her rescue." Miss Green is a torch singer? Well, I learned she was Mrs. Connor Green just now. When she came in here, I only seen her in Little Fanny's singing lead for a jazz band at the Tin Spoon. The Tin Spoon? I said. Tiny Paul's joint? That's where Green is selling his liquor. Say, you think that's where she met her husband? I laughed. You're the real sleuth, Frankie. He made a sarcastic bow. I shook my head. You're telling me you escorted our little torture out just to avoid a bit of hot water? Frankie flushed and said, What are you talking about, Malone? I was never good with emotions, but it was plain that Frankie had instantly fallen for the girl. So what if I had more to squeeze out of her? I asked. What more could you possibly want with little Fanny? She can't have anything to do with Green's mess. I don't know. She is his wife. And this is where I didn't speak my opinion when I did the demo. She is his wife. And not only that, but she came in here yelling and hollering about it. She was following her husband, for one. Miss Green followed her husband to my place, I said. Why would she do that? Frankie rolled his eyes. PC, if you were Green's wife, would you trust him with anything? I'm sure he's always up to something. I shrugged and stood up from the bar. Alright, so now we're getting somewhere. I was heading upstairs and Frankie called after me. So what are you going to do? I've been thinking about little Fanny. But think about little Fanny. I suppose even mobsters have people who care about them, and she's been wearing Lewis's old jacket, so perhaps Green and Lewis have been closer than I'd realized. I guess I'll take Connor Green's bait, I replied. I've got nothing better on the stove, and he might need the help. Something still stinks, though. Well, what's your plan? Frankie asked. The way I see it, I have 3 goals right now. Green hired me for a job. Find the guy who wrote the letter. That's the basic part. But you want more? Said Frankie. I nodded. Green's a shady character. I have to learn about him. Who is this guy? Dig into his past? I can't go back to him blind. And then there's something about his bootlegging. How'd Green get a connection like that? What's his source exactly? Squeezing that lemon might give me more juice. That sounds alright, he replied. So, where is it you're off to? I've got 3 leads. That bootlegger stable, who Green claims sent the letter. The Tin Spoon Lounge, where I might learn more about Green's rum-running schemes, and Miss Green, who could give me more dirt on her husband. Frankie nodded his approval. Well, if you're ever stuck, come back and see me. You can never solve anything without talking it over. I smiled and went up the stairs. I gotta fix my headset. It's falling off my head. Alright, so now I'm on the job. And the first place I went was Stable's barber shop. So we're gonna go there. Granna suspected Redstone Stable of sending him that letter. Apparently Stable owned a barber shop in the financial district. I figured there would be no harm in asking Stable about it directly. So we're gonna go there. I grabbed a taxi cab and told the driver where I wanted to go. I thought about talking with him on our way. The driver was somewhere in his 50s, but drove like he'd soon be dead, bouncing through the streets and honking at anyone in his way. Making good time, I commented. Bah! He exhaled like an old ship captain. Congestion. All these motorists and not one of them knows how to drive. Lunatics. The last word he shouted through the window. You see, Life magazine, he continued, 13% increase in auto deaths this year to last. 14 the year before. Most of them pedestrians. We crested another hill and my head bounced off the car ceiling. Most folks run out of moonshine at home, but take that cart and Squeaky can't even walk and then think they can handle the road. The car's tires squeaked as we rounded the corner. Well, not me, sister. This car leaps when I put my foot down, but you just gotta know what you're doing. We screeched to a halt at my destination. I stumbled out of the taxi cab as quickly as possible, thankful to still have every limb. The barber shop was down an alley in the financial district, opposite the red brick National Bank. The small bell above the door twinkled as I walked in. The maroon leather chair looked comfortable. It seems elaborate for a barbershop waiting chair. The hat rack was a deep mahogany, engraved with gold lettering that read, Francer & Co. Furnishings. The modern hydraulic barber chair had always seemed ostentatious to me, but this one, with its soft brown cushions and green and gold embroidery, was the most ornate I had ever seen. The two sides of the mirror's frame were cylindrical, painted blue, red, and white to look like barber poles. They clashed with the otherwise elegant furnishings. The frame on the black wall contained a yellowed photograph of an old man. He had an authentic smile and held scissors in his left hand. The stable's cabinet was similar to my own, but where mine was a dull gray metal, his was a deep red wood that looked heavy. Anything else? No? Let's talk to the man. There was a tall man in the center of the room. He was wearing a flamboyant pink suit tailored to actuate his stature, but a maroon bow tie and pocket square. I gathered this was Redstone Stable. The man turned to face me. He grinned and his squinting blue eyes made the smile feel genuine. I must apologize, he said. We do not take walk-ins. I asked him for a chop. I told him why I was there. I'm not here for a chop. Just answer the stable. He scolded. Oh, Miss Malone. You know you are not a standard detective. Please do not be a Madoon as all the other sleuths. I asked how he knowed my name. He tisked a few times and said, Miss Malone, that is another dull report. His eyes became dull. What is it you want with me? He didn't seem to like my straightforward approach, but I had no time to mince words. I needed to get my information and move on. Ask about the note. I pulled Green's note from my pocket and showed it to him, but didn't let him hold it. Green tells me this letter is from you, I told him. He doesn't like the threats. Stable lowered his head to study the note, then chuckled. His knowing grin returned to his face. "But this is a black hand letter," he replied, flourishing a hand towards the paper. "Have you ever seen a black hand letter, Miss Malone?" I confessed I hadn't. "Exactly," he said. "You should ring your friend Shipman at the station and ask what it means." Sam Shipman had been one of my uncle's regular partners in the Vice rackets. I wondered what Shipman could have to do with Green's case. Staples seemed to think that he had a lot to do with it. I pocketed the letter and continued with my questions, but I made note to stop by the police headquarters and see Shipman. "Miss Malone," he smiled. "Would there be anything else?" "Ask about notes." Let's see. No, I don't think he'd known where she was known as Little Fanny. "Green claims you bootleg," I stated bluntly. His grin didn't waver in his response. "Would you hang me on Connor Green's claims? I may partake in some gambling, and I may have a talent for it, but it has nothing illegal, I assure you." "And you know nothing about Green's own bootlegging?" I asked. Staples shook his head. I doubted he would ever answer a question straight. "Well, Miss Malone," he asked, "will there be anything else?" "Of course." I asked Samuel again about Green's bootlegging claims, but he continued to deny any knowledge of that type of business. Okay. Then let's ask about his wife. I showed him something in my notes, but I got no good information from our exchange. Claims he doesn't bootleg. I nodded to his furniture. Elegant trappings for a barber. Math was never my strongest subject, but I can't see a barber making enough for all this. He smiled. "Yes, I have other methods of procuring wealth, but I do not engage in illicit activities, if that is your implication." "Well, Miss Malone," he smiled, "will there be anything else?" "How did you know my name?" I questioned. He smiled again. He apparently liked smiling when he was pleased with himself. "Miss Malone, that is an interesting answer, but interesting answers are for people who interest me, and you are quite lifeless. No, you will not get further down this road." "Well, Miss Malone, will there be anything else?" Let me see. Alright, well, I'm done. "Nothing now," I said, and turned back to the barber shop. I looked around Staples' elaborate shop. Okay, so he has all this fancy stuff, and how could he afford all this without doing something illegal? I'll have to come back. The front door had a bell on top of it. Leave. We're gonna go to Tin Spoon. The Tin Spoon Lounge was a speaking... Well, no. I want to go to the police station. I always dreaded visiting the PD after I'd flown the cop. And I was in no mood right now, but if Shipman did know something about Green's note, I had to chase it up. I waved down a taxi cab and was on my way. I thought I might talk with the driver to pass the time. And I'm gonna end this episode here. I am running way past my time. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit that like button. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'll put the links in the description below. Don't forget, if you haven't seen this, go watch the demo before you watch this one. So, until next time, my scaredy cats, bye-bye!